17th, 2022 meeting for the Franklin Public Schools Board of Education. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mrs. Witkowski.
Here.
Mr. Alexandrovich.
Here.
Mrs. Sapersky.
Here.
Dr. Khan.
Here.
Dr. Beer.
Here.
Mr. Sprague.
Here.
We are all present.
Thank you, and the meeting has been properly posted. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So move. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Community comment. Has anybody signed up for community comment? All right, we will not go through that, we will not go through the community comment soliloquy. Consent agenda.
That's a big word.
Yes, my soliloquy, sorry. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion's been made, seconded, and possibly third. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. School board calendar, regular Board of Education meeting, Wednesday, September 14th, 2022, and Wednesday, September 28th, 2022, both at 6 p.m., both at the ECC. District Administrator update, Mrs. Bennett, please.
All right, so it's exciting to be able to speak to you in August as we're starting to welcome back our students, our staff, and we have just a variety of activities going on. So just to highlight a few that we've had in the last couple weeks are coming up in the near future. We've enjoyed transition days for our 6th grade students and our 9th grade students. 6th grade was here, I believe it was last week, 9th grade, the last couple days at the high school. So it's just been fun to see them getting their pictures taken, exploring the buildings, kind of eliminating or mitigating those jitters of the first day. We had band camp that wrapped up last week, so some of you were at the concert they put on to show all that they had learned through the heat and hard work on the football field. But we went up there a day to watch practice, and it was really exciting, again, just to see the eagerness to be back and just the different strengths of our students shining. Sports seasons are here. We have our first football game Friday already. We've had golf meets going on. Tennis and volleyball have started. So you go to the high school, and it just looks like this place that's running on full gears already. We welcome back new teachers this week. I know a couple of you were able to be there with us and meet them at Forest Park. We've had them in every day. They've had time to learn more about our curriculum, what it's like to be in Franklin, and get to meet their mentors, get to meet a lot of our team, and our team's done a really nice job creating an atmosphere that's inviting, making sure they feel welcome, and really kind of showing them why, you know, with all the choices they could have made in education, they made a really good one being here this year. All staff comes back next Tuesday, so hopefully a lot of you can join us at the Saber Center at 8 a.m. We've been planning a variety of, I would say, fun and interesting welcome back pieces, some that will look similar to the past, some that will be a little new. But I would say there's been lots of smiles along the journey, and we're excited just to have everybody back. I personally am excited just to see all of our staff for the first time in one space and welcome them back. On top of that, we have open houses coming up and just different events where you can start to see the families. Most importantly, I would say in the near future is our Milkman game on Sunday, so hopefully everybody's able to make it. We're really grateful to the Education Foundation to getting this event going. I know we have a lot of ticket sales out there already and a lot of buzz going on in the community about being there, so hopefully we see a lot of you there, but we'll see a lot of everybody in August, and just excited to get the school year going. Thank you.
Thank you. Reports, presentations, and other school board business. The Franklin Business Consortium presentation will be starting shortly. We'll start with presentation by Mr. Thompson, the Community Experience Coordinator for Franklin Public Schools. And then the Business Consortium will present directly after that. Yeah. Andy, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sprague.
I'm Andy Thompson. I'm the Community Experience Coordinator. I've met some of you at some events over the last year. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for letting me kind of share some things. So, in speaking with Mr. Sprague, we just wanted me to kind of do like an update over how last year kind of went. So I'll kind of start with kind of a general overview of things that went well and maybe some room for growth and some other things that we could kind of improve on. Anytime, kind of stop, ask questions, whatever you kind of, or your thoughts are. So we'll kind of move to the next slide. Positives, the growth. So you'll see kind of in the packet that I gave you, and we'll go over some data and some graphs, how there's been a significant increase in the amount of kids that have participated in internships, apprenticeships, other career-based learning opportunities. So we'll kind of see that as we kind of move on. Another kind of positive has been the support from the community and district. Everyone I always talk to always has time that they want more interns, they want students, they want them to experience new things, they want to take on more interns. Everyone has been extremely positive and great to work with in our community and in our district has been very supportive as well. The scalability of inroads. As inroads was kind of phased out, I myself was one of the people that was in the original kind of start of that as the teacher side of it, so I saw it kind of start. And a lot of the things that were in there, now we've kind of learned how to scale out to the rest of the school. There's a whole language of learning how to communicate between school and community because they kind of speak some different languages. You know, just some of the work that we did with job shadows and interns and some of that work that was kind of done in that little scalable sandbox, we've kind of scaled out and kind of learning how to kind of use those things throughout an entire body for all students at the high school. And then employment landscape. I mean, right now is an awesome time to be in my position because everybody needs people. So I think that, you know, everyone's kind of needing people, needing interns, whereas 10 years ago may not have been the same situation. Right now, everyone needs workers, needs people, and is very supportive of wanting to kind of have students kind of learn. If anything, they have choice of where they can want to go and work right now. And then I'm kind of starting a career work-based group. And we have Mr. Mike Sprague, who's going to kind of be our board liaison. Dr. Mo will kind of be our representative, also from the district. And we're just going to kind of go through a lot of the things that are growth opportunities. I mean, we moved really fast. In like 4 or 5 years, we went from basically no interns to over 200. So it's like, okay, let's take a step back to look at how can we do things to fidelity and kind of go over some of the things and processes to make it better for all students while continuing to kind of grow at the same time. So it'll kind of be a program of study. And Mike has been generous to commit 1 year of his time to the group to kind of work through things that we kind of see fit and kind of improve upon that we kind of talk about in the areas for growth. Data specific to career areas, or I guess go back a slide, sorry, I'll go over the growth opportunities. So first one to be access for all students. And this is always something that you'll kind of see some stagnation in some areas, and this is something that we don't necessarily have data for. An example that we could get into would be like our CNA. You know, we have like 44, 46 students who participate in the CNA program is where we've kind of capped. If we had transportation available to students or our own CNA lab, what would be the opportunity of growth with that number? We don't know what we could kind of tap into. So that's going to always be something with everything, with any intern or anything like that, is how can we make it more accessible transportation? All schools all across the country always have this issue. That's always the one thing everywhere is transportation for things that we kind of always see. Data specific to career clusters would be a growth opportunity. So we have a little bit of this data, specifically when it comes to the youth apprenticeships, but we don't have so much when it comes to interns. We do gather information on where they'd like to work, but it's maybe not specific to one of the 16 career clusters. So how can we kind of shore that up and kind of collect that data to kind of start next year and kind of have that to kind of grow upon moving forward. Next would be a larger business partners. Is always something that I think would be an opportunity for growth. If I could get one location that had 10 to 15 interns, that was a really large company that employed hundreds if not thousands of people, it would be much more efficient for the student, myself, and everybody involved for the whole process. Because that way it's, you know, one job site, I can see how 10 or 15 kids are doing versus 15 different. I mean, I think the most of anywhere we have is maybe 5 kids at one location. So you're talking upwards of maybe 70, 80 different locations that we have kids at probably out in our community, which is great that everyone wants to help, but how can we kind of leverage some of those larger business partners in the area to kind of utilize them? And then, you know, there's always kind of pieces with the marketing and capturing of more of the anecdotal stories is what kids like to hear. So an example would be yesterday I was meeting with a parent and her son was going through and interning at an orthodontic office. and that's really great. He maybe wanted to be an orthodontist. And then he kind of stopped, didn't like that as much, started working in the lab. And then what he kind of found out that he really liked is he found out how expensive some of the equipment was, and he wanted to work in the supply chain and kind of learn that and kind of sell it and go into the school for that. So in his year of senior year of high school, he learned all of those sorts of things that sometimes it's a great win if they learn something that they don't want to do too. And kids kind of can find paths and things kind of generically within the career areas that way. And then kind of just the marketing of it and how to message it and get the information across to families and parents and students, because there's so much information that goes to them. How can we reach them with some of these great things that people are kind of doing? Yes?
Just for my benefit, can you define apprenticeship versus internship?
Yes. So you all will have a page also for your own, but an internship is going to be 90 hours in a semester. So it's going to be much shorter, whereas a youth apprenticeship is going to be 450 in an entire school year. So usually kids do an internship for both semesters, but they don't have to. Youth apprenticeship is going to be aligned with the Department of Workforce Development through the state of Wisconsin. And it's going to be, have to take, like, there's 11 different areas they can do it in. It's going to have to align with curriculum that they have to do. And it's going to be for a kid who's maybe a little bit sure of what they want to do and kind of focused in, whereas the internship is maybe more exploratory. So kind of on like a spectrum of that, that would be kind of the very end would be that youth apprenticeship. Somewhere in the middle towards the end would maybe be that internship.
There it is. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I know, it's very.
And
okay.
one
Yes.
is internships only for summer, or it goes throughout the whole year?
So right now we don't really offer it in the summer. I mean, that's something that we've kind of maybe thought about, then maybe we could kind of look at for next year with that group. Now kids in the youth apprenticeship usually do work in the summer at the business. It kind of depends on the situation. Some employers like to bring them on like, in June so they can work 40 hours a week in the summer. And then by the time the school year starts and they go down to 15, 20 hours, they're a little more independent. So that's kind of what the apprenticeship. For the internships, since it is the 90 hours, it's just kind of done like within the regular school semester currently as it's set up. So,
Question,
Yes.
can you give an example when you, for data specific to career clusters?
okay, so let's say we have, there's 16 career clusters that exist. Out of our 400 seniors, what % of kids want to go into manufacturing? I mean, we have maybe some data we could get in like Zello and like some of the career things, but what % within that are actually working in those areas and doing those areas within our internships? You'll see a graph that I show with our youth apprenticeships where I break it down by what I'm talking about into 8 different areas later on, but I would like to gather that data for our interns as well, which we don't necessarily specifically have currently. So of our, 100 interns that we have out in the community, maybe 10 are in manufacturing, 12 are in retail, 8 are in marketing, 6 are in healthcare, that sort of kind of data, just to kind of help us understand the community need and the economic need in the area is this. Well, are we educating kids on this? Maybe, there's a huge need in healthcare right now. Are we kind of matching our needs with what our kids kind of are doing, educating them on what's available in our community in 5 years out, according to economic reports and data from the government?
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the slide that I kind of speak to when I first talk to maybe a new business. Just to break it down, there's a whole spectrum of like 14 different ways you can get involved as a business when supporting our students in Franklin Public Schools. It's not just the internships and the apprenticeships. That's like the real work-based learning. Kind of starting, on that career-based learning experience would kind of almost could start at almost like, our 4K or K level, where you kind of just have some exposure at some career fairs, you have speakers come in, and then you kind of maybe move into some tours through elementary school, you can move into job shadows. These are just all the ways so people out there can know how they can get involved. So I show this to a business that it's not just like we're just asking for interns and a huge commitment. If you have somebody that can just, offer a 2-hour job shadow and someone can come in and do that, that's a great thing that we need as well. If you have somebody that can just commit to maybe a career fair where they stop by, once or twice a year and we do that, that's great as well. So it just kind of sets it like into 2 different categories. The work-based learning is going to be much more intense and much more of that like hands-on learning on the job, hours and hours of time, versus the career-based are going to be more just those kind of surface level type early on kind of experiences. So that's really all for that. And then we'll just get into, I think there's like 5 different graphs. So like I said, it's been about 6 or 7 years of data that we have for a lot of these. Some of these are entirely new in like 2016, 17, and you can see they're all kind of generally moving up. Youth apprenticeship number is going to generally be a little bit lower just because it's a little more in depth. We are part of a consortium. So I think we, out of the 5 schools we're a consortium, I think we do about 40 to 50% of the youth apprenticeships. I think that there's about 70 kids that are apprentices in the consortium that we're a part of. So that kind of helps facilitate with that. I work with Tom Herman, who kind of is a member of the consortium. So, you know, Greendale, Greenfield, Whitnall, us and St. Francis kind of all come together and kind of support for that. And so kids kind of are placed all over for those, and those are the kind of more specific kids. So those are going, that's the number that definitely I think there's opportunity to kind of grow quite a bit to maybe closer to 50, I would say this year is what we're hoping to get close to. Just because there's probably kids out there who are working as an intern at their job that could be a YA, they're doing the classes, and how can we kind of have the conversations with them and identify them in a manner that's efficient to get them to kind of qualify for something that's a little more recognized and better for their future. So, and this is what I was speaking to when it said career-specific data that I want to get for maybe internships and other things. So youth apprenticeships have 11 different areas. We employ kids in about 8 different areas. Health sciences is the largest one by far. That's going to be kids that go through our CNA program that end up usually working in that. They could be a pharmacy tech, would be maybe the other thing. One of those 2 would usually be it, is what they're going to be. And then there's kind of not, you know, anything more than 5 or 6 and anything else. So manufacturing is going to be usually kind of up there as well. Everything else is going to stay around 5 or kind of less for the youth apprentices. And so this was kind of the data that I was speaking to get for maybe the interns, to kind of break down, to kind of see, you know, where do we kind of have, so then what we should really be using that information to leverage is we should be making more, I should be spending more of my time at hospitals and making connections with larger employers of those areas to kind of leverage some of those partnerships if that's where our kids want to go into. Yes.
How can we not know where the internships are at?
Well, I know where they're at, but so kids don't necessarily have to specify what area they're going into for the internship itself. So I have a list of all the businesses where they're at and all their supervisors and everything like that. It's just not been broken down in the past, I guess I should say. There was no past data to go off of when I came in, is what I mean. Kind of for that, to go off of, like, I know where they're all at and where they're placed and their supervisors, yes. But there's no specific data that speaks to the different career clusters that they had to identify. Because the way the application goes, there's no information that collects that on there.
So it's less about what they're doing and more about what they intend to do?
So the internship is set up with like the employability skills certificate, which kind of speaks to more soft skills and doesn't necessarily focus on the career cluster areas as much as, say, the youth apprentice does, when it was kind of originally designed back in 2015 or 16. It was kind of created as more work-based learning, and you do the employability skills through the state of Wisconsin, which speaks to like radio and communication, collaboration, punctuality, those types of things. So it's more a portfolio that they gather with those sorts of things. So I'd like to make it more of a youth apprenticeship itself, only less hours. So it is more aligned with like a career, because essentially it almost was like, yes, a job does kind of, it is kind of a job a little bit too, could kind of count. So it's shoring up a lot of language with the group of people that we're going to try and do.
Okay.
Because, to answer your question, yes. Okay, yes.
So where does the high schooler that's working at McDonald's or Kohl's, how does that fit into this?
So that would be in the internship, community internship.
Oh, that's,
So
Wait, a part-time job is an internship?
as of right now, yes.
So in your number there that you're saying there's only 140 kids at the high school who have part-time jobs?
So this is the kids that intern at our high school, specifically just with teachers and areas in our high school for the FHS interns. The community interns would be kids that are out in the community that are getting released from school to go do these opportunities. This number of FHS interns would be kids interning at our high school. So if a kid, for example, I am the advisor for our store, our school store. I usually have 1 or 2 interns that would count in this number that would be FHS interns for.
So if a kid has a part-time job, if they're not being released from school to go to their part-time job, it does not count in these numbers.
All right, so when Linda asked, what about the kid who works at McDonald's? We shouldn't have said that's an intern.
So technically, they could get released and it could count, because what our internship program has is there is a whole component related to the state of Wisconsin through the employability skills certificate that is done that requires additional time and reflection than just the job itself. So their employer has to turn in like an evaluation form that kind of gets done. And a lot of this terminology and these questions that you have are going to be what we'll go through with our group to kind of identify and get on a common terminology, because there has been a little bit of I guess some bumps with some of the difference between job and internship. It's a debate to kind of certainly have and kind of discuss.
Okay.
Yeah, I think certainly one of the things that happened in 15, 16, and I wasn't on the board at the time, but there was a general desire, let's start this, and it got started. And well, I think Franklin is leading in it. It was let's jump into the pool and we'll figure everything out later. And possibly that would have been done by now, except I think COVID happened and that sort of thing happened. So I think now is a good time to relook at everything and move forward.
Now, there is a slide, community internships, right?
Correct. There is a slide for
So does that include kids with part-time jobs in there?
if they want to get released from fourth hour for their part-time job and their employer agrees to fill out and be a supervisor as a part of the program, that would be a community intern. Or a kid could be working in a really specific career area as well for the community internship if they don't have the time to commit to a youth apprenticeship.
Okay.
So it kind of would count both of those kids.
And what are your goals numbers-wise for those two? Because you mentioned you're hoping to get your apprenticeships up to about 50. What are your goals for community and FHS internships in the coming year?
Yeah, so honestly, I'd like to see the FHS numbers probably go down a little bit.
Okay.
And then the community go up a little bit. Just because I think that a lot of kids that are interning at the high school, maybe if we kind of had conversations with them and kind of push them out to be in the more community, they're going to get more out in the community than they sometimes would kind of in the high school.
Okay.
So I'd like for, I would say, probably 120. I know we have this year already community interns. I mean, I'd have to look at the numbers, but I know the numbers have gone up quite a bit for enrollments for this year. I know the youth apprentice number is around 35, but I think then the community internship number is going to have to go down for that to kind of happen, because the kids are going to move from that bucket to the other kind of bucket.
Okay.
Is how it's going to kind of work. And then I think that's okay. So certified nursery assistant, like I said, this one's kind of flatlined. When it started, it gained a lot of exposure. And I know that we put through about 18 this summer and 10 this fall and 20 next spring. So quite a few kids are going through CNA, and there's always tons of interest in it. And if anything, we have a wait list of about 15 kids right now, because we did have to switch from MATC, kind of stopped their partnership with us, and we had to go and find somebody else. So we had to go through WCTC for it. And that's kind of who we're using now. We partner with New Berlin Eisenhower High School, so kids will be kind of going there and using their lab space. So definitely that number, I would say, could easily sustain probably 60 a year of interest for kids. It's just, yes.
Is there, can you comment on, was there a lesson learned in the dissolution of the partnership with MATC, or was that just they are choosing to take their program in a different direction? What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, it really came down to staffing. A lot of people
They
went back
couldn't staff
into
it.
private because they could just make more.
Okay.
And New Berlin has a high school lab for?
Correct. They have a CNA lab space.
Okay. So during the school year, like the summer kids had to go out to Pewaukee
Correct.
for that space, but during the school year, our students will just have to go to New Berlin. They won't have to go all the way to Pewaukee.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we tried to make it, because it's a really far commute out there, we tried to make it and find somewhere as close as possible. And then a lot of the private options just are getting through so fast because they reduced the number of hours required for it, that it kind of just was not an easy option to go through private ones, because it's a 2-week window, and they kind of reduced the amount of hours. So I think that there's maybe one more slide.
That's it?
That's it? Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Do you have further questions for Mr. Thompson? Thank you very much. We look forward
Yeah,
to
thank you.
starting this work.
So we're going to have, I think, Mr. Dave Dole, who's a part of our Business Park Consortium in Franklin, the president, kind of speak to how he's kind of supported us and what he kind of does, and how, and a video made kind of by students as well will be shown by them. I think he's got a couple of people with him too. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. We have 3 presenters. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and I will let you introduce yourself, and we appreciate your coming tonight. know I've been coming to the Business Park Consortium meetings for a couple of months, and I think it's really, really fantastic what you have all done for Franklin Public Schools, so please.
Well, thanks for having us here tonight. Yeah, we've been involved as a consortium since 2015, when we started as a charitable organization, and then we started joining companies. And here tonight, Susan Robbie, she's the executive director and CEO of the Franklin Conservancy, and she'll say a few things about that, because I think if you don't know about it, it's a hidden gem, or maybe not hidden, but a gem in Franklin. And Dana Momorowski, who's our sales and marketing manager at Alice Roller, and very active in the coordination of all the events of the consortium. She's the mentor for the Franklin High School students that we have as interns, and we'll talk more about that tonight, what our experience has been, which has been excellent. So I'm going to say a few words, and then Susan and Dana may chime in. But we have, and I'm going to, if we can go to the next slide, there's 17 full member companies and 5 supporting companies in the consortium, and representing probably 3,000 employees. Crohn's being one of the bigger companies that has over 500 employees. Alice Roller, which I'm president of, has about 135 employees. And then we have supporting members, and you have 3 employees. But, as Susan will comment on, she's had interns work at the Conservancy. And so at Alice Roller, we usually have 3 students. One who's there for the consortium, and then so far that's been an intern. Dana just whispered to me, maybe we need an apprenticeship this year, because we've got a lot going on, and with 17 companies and lots of different things that we get involved in, not just workforce development and working with the high schools, mostly Franklin High School, but we work with high schools throughout the area. There's a lot of things that we get involved in. But we're here tonight to talk about our support of Franklin High School and the internship program. So we usually have one intern that works for the consortium, and Dana works closely with them. This coming year, we're trying to enhance our social media outreach, which means the intern will interact with the 17 companies plus our supporting members and try to get more information out on social media so that more of the community is aware of what we do. So that's one big, plus they help organize the meetings, and you're going to see a video here in a minute of some other fun things that they do to get the word out. We have other members that have numerous, I think you mentioned, Andy mentioned 5 internships at one company. That's probably Crohn's. Karma Labs is another big company in our membership that usually has a number of interns. And you can see, you can't see all the logos up there, but there's a lot of different companies, different sizes. And we had a meeting just today, and Andy was just like here, bombarded with some of the very same questions, great questions. Like, what's the difference between an intern? And it is somewhat confusing, would you agree? But he's explained it pretty well. But we need to fine tune that. And our part of this is going to be working with Andy to determine, that was another question, how do you not know where these are? And that was the same thing we said today. We all want interns and apprenticeships, so we're going to do our part to submit a list to Andy of here's the company name and here's what we're looking for. So we're going to try to get that put together in the next couple of weeks, whether it's an intern or an apprenticeship. So last year we had 2 interns and 1 apprentice, and you'll see 2 of them in this video. And you'll learn more about what they did at Alice Roller. But I just think it's typical of what they do at all the different companies. And you looked at the numbers, the target numbers, and I don't know, maybe 20% of those might be in our business park. I'm just guessing, but there's a big demand, as Andy just said. We're all looking for workers. So we do have a lot going on there. You can go to the next slide. This is gaining strength, and I've pretty much covered most of this, but we're trying to not just have them do some of the work that we need done, but to actually learn about, in our case, we're a manufacturing company. So we have them get involved in a lot of things that involve manufacturing. And the other, I know Crohn's, for example, explained today, they created some opportunities because a student said, I'm interested in this. So they said, okay, we're going to put you over here and you can learn more about what you're interested in. So we're trying to work with the students. The whole idea of the consortium was to do workforce development not only for our employees, which we have classrooms there that MATC, I was on the board of MATC for 8 years and was the chair for 2 years, and we have 2 classrooms at Alice Roller where we had MATC instructors, and we had 1 year we got a $55,000 grant for training, and we had like 500 employees come through in one semester with 8 different classes like lean manufacturing, Excel, blueprint reading, which Dana participated in. This was 16 hours, 2 hours per class for 8 weeks, and they got certificates. In fact, that year they actually got credit at MATC. So we're really into the workforce development piece. We're also a classroom for GPS, which is high school training program, which brings in students from all the area high schools. There's about 35 juniors and seniors that come to Alice Roller every day during the school year, and they have 2 hours of classwork, and then they work 6 hours at various companies nearby. And we have some of those students work for us as well. They actually, their junior and senior year is attending class and work, and they don't go to their high school. And I think there was a couple of Franklin, I'm not sure about that, whether that was part of with Franklin or not. But a lot of young people around Alice Roller, and we love it. We happen to have the room and the parking lot to support it. And, other than burning rubber and racing our engines right outside my office, sometimes gets a little irritating, but it keeps us young. And we really, the consortium is about supporting the community and doing these types of things to help the community and particularly young people. So we're very happy to be a part of it, and we look forward to keep growing. So I think Mike now was involved in the last few meetings. We said, why don't we tell the whole board about what we're doing, and we want to be part of that growth because we firmly believe a workforce experience or work experience while you're in high school is just a tremendous opportunity and should be a part of the high school education. So we're one of the biggest business parks in the state. We have over 70 companies, and we're looking to grow beyond the 17 members. So every year we add 2 or 3 new members. We have a scholarship program, $1,000 scholarship for 4 students, which we awarded, I don't know, a few months back.
Yeah, 3 Franklin,
Yep, 3 Franklin and then
Waukesha.
Waukesha.
So we will go out for those candidates to be nominated here in the fall, and then we award that in the spring. And right now it's 4. We might even expand that beyond that. So the relationship with the high school has been phenomenal. Was Rachel for a while, and now Andy, and someone from the high school is at almost every meeting, including, like Mike's coming now. We've had superintendents, other teachers. 2 of us were on the Sabre Manufacturing Board. Crohn's donated a big piece of equipment to Sabre Manufacturing. Tom Schultz is a dynamite person. I was trying to get him here tonight. He would have lit up the room. But we'll have to try to light it up as best we can. So anyway, Susan, would you like to chime in?
Sure. So I'm listening to Dave, and I'm sitting here thinking, over 40 years ago, I was a high school senior, and I participated in what was called co-op. Does this ring a bell to anybody? So I went to work every afternoon, walked 10 blocks to the bus line, and went downtown. And I was placed at the state's largest insurance agency. So I got dumped into the insurance world. And what I was learning in the classroom never matched what I was experiencing in the real world. And this is part of why the Business Consortium supports these kinds of activities, because classroom learning is fine, but it's what happens outside the classroom. It's like studying for a test. Like I'm an insurance agent, so you study, but that's not really how it works with insurance. The tests and the materials don't match how you underwrite and place coverage. But that senior year experience helped me determine that that was the career path I wanted to take. So my credentials, all the letters after my name, all have to do with insurance, employee benefits, HR. I ran Mercer, Wisconsin practice. So I always look back to my senior year in high school and what it did for me. It launched my career, because I had career-based experience as a senior in high school. So fast forward, I was in healthcare risk management for almost 30 years, and decided in 2008 to go into nonprofit leadership. I wanted to work for a mission versus Wall Street. And so I did lead a large foundation, and then the Conservancy, I know some of the board members, they said, come and help. So within the first year at the Conservancy, building that, raising the funds, and developing it, finishing it, I met Pat Gain. And I think you all should know him. If you don't, you need to know Mr. Gain. I invited him out to the Conservancy on a tip from the DNR. A contact of mine at the DNR said, you need to know Pat Gain at Franklin High School. He might like the Conservancy for his AP Environmental Sciences. So invited Pat, and it was like he was dropped in a candy store. He couldn't believe that this opportunity was being presented, and it served him in providing an outdoor classroom for the high school students. So that was the beginning, or the birth, of the relationship between Franklin High School and the Conservancy. So from that point forward, there were multiple outings for the students where they learned. He brought their learning to the Conservancy. And then that moved to what we're calling internships. Some of, I think, our students, I would say, probably were more advanced in their time that they put on. Mary, sitting back there, her daughter Irene was our intern 2 years ago, Mary? Yep. And she was very interested in environmental sciences, and that is where she is getting her advanced education. Some of our other interns, I think, just went more they were interested in learning, but Sam Maines and Ben Gebhardt, our last two, both completed their Eagle Scout project for the Conservancy. So it has turned into something where they've been beneficial to getting our project done and helping the community. And it's been amazing for me to see them mature. And that's the difference that the consortium can make for students. We need parental involvement. We need the parents to care about their kids and encourage these kinds of opportunities. In our care, they'll learn even more. So the benefit to the Conservancy has been, one, they kind of learn a little bit about a nonprofit. Most of them have been interested in environmental learning. And Irene helped us understand Kottmeyer Lake and how deep it is. She worked on depth finding. So there isn't a lack of experiences that students can have. Mike and I met for coffee a couple weeks ago, and I said, look, I'd like to take this into middle school, 7th and 8th grade, there's opportunity there. So we, as the Conservancy, have tremendous opportunities. And because I've experienced it, and I've been, I think, okay, successful in my career, because I had career-based learning senior year, we want that. That's why we had such a great meeting today. Everyone around the table, all those companies, we want to provide that for students. It's going to be a leg up. It's going to help them in their life. It isn't just about their career path, but it's about developing them into responsible adults. And we can provide that. And it's helping them see the difference between the classroom and outside the classroom. So teachers like Pat Gain are invaluable because they connect those dots. And hopefully, you know, we want to have more and more teachers understand what this means. I think sometimes academia gets caught up in academia and doesn't step outside of that box. So that's why these experiences are so valuable. And hopefully, we can look at, if for any, I'm talking for the Conservancy, some of those 7th and 8th grade opportunities as well. We're here for this. We're here for the residents, and we're here for the families, and we're definitely here for the students.
So I worked with the interns the last 3 years. I've been at Alice Roller. It'll be 3 years in September. So they had duties for the consortium, and then they also had duties with Alice Roller. So we tried to keep them busy. So our last intern, Agam, he was interested in finance. So we needed help with in accounting at Alice Roller. So I always try to ask the students, what do you like? What don't you like? What can we do more of? So they're not just filing papers. They're, you know, doing spreadsheets. They're helping with what they think they want to go on as far as a career. So we always try to find things within the organization that are going to help them to what they think their path is. So we came up with the idea, the consortium did, of having them do a video with trying to, you know, let the community know what we're doing and to get more interns or the youth apprentice. So Jessica, if you could show the video. So this is what we had them work on. And I really pushed them to do it themselves. So this is all the students.
Sorry, I was gonna make sure you're done talking.
No, that's okay.
I should
But I just,
held it.
one more
I'm
thing
sorry.
I just wanted to say
Yeah,
is
go
that
ahead.
Andy had recommended that we use the video team at the high school. So this was completely done on their own.
All right.
And they made a little money from the consortium for producing it, so.
Good.
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Hi, I'm Agam. I am a senior at Franklin High School, and I'm also an intern here at Alice Roller for the Franklin Industrial Park. Here I file invoices, file quotes, enter invoices, send out letters, anything the consortium really needs me to do. In the future, I plan to go to UW-Whitewater for finance, and the way this internship is going to help me is I know how basic finance works. I know how to read an invoice, how quotes work, how invoices work, and that kind of stuff. So I'm really thankful that I had this opportunity to be here for this school year.
My name is Maggie Sapersky, and I am a senior at Franklin High School. And I am an engineering intern at Alice Roller in the Franklin Industrial District. The main things I've been doing while here as an engineering intern is I work on continuous improvement projects. I do things such as organize tool boards, I've created some filing systems, and we have made some part tracking boards to keep track of parts that are going through individual cells. I have loved to have the opportunity to work with engineers in the real world. I will be going to Madison for civil engineering next year, and that has been the main thing that I have loved with this experience.
I'm a sympathetic crier, sorry.
Thanks, Angie. So I'll just add that that's my daughter who was in that, and she was so grateful. We were so grateful for everything that she was offered through that internship. She really did get some amazing real life.
She's great.
Real life experiences, and I did, just don't mind me, I dropped her at Madison yesterday for college, so I'm just a little like verklempt seeing her. It's the first time I've seen her in 24 hours. But what you were saying about the, like, that real, like, career-based, you know, Maggie's talked since an experience in 7th grade, actually, at the middle school, about being an engineer. She knew she was going to be an engineer, but getting to Alice Roller and seeing how engineers work in the real world, and also seeing how the things that engineers were doing impacted, like, workers in the factory and things like that. She did all sorts of things and learned a whole lot about the real world, including a regular schedule. Lunch break is at this time, you know, like factory break is at, like, you know, I have to wait to eat until a certain time, you know, like those are some real life skills that kids don't always have. And I think it was really eye-opening. And so it's just, I'm really grateful personally, but also as a school board member, I think the opportunities that you all through the consortium are giving our students are just out of this world. And I'm just going to keep crying.
Thank you. We really, Maggie was great. Makes our day to hear those kinds of comments. Maggie also was one of the scholarship winners. So we're, you know, happy that it can work out that way. And we just want to make it grow even bigger and have more opportunities for students. And Dana might have said this, but our goal next year is to have more companies represented and more students. They started out that way, but somehow they got under the time crunch, and it was, at least they got 2 students at Alice Roller, but the whole idea was to show other students. So that'll be our goal for this coming year.
And as a side note, did you see Maggie was welding?
She was welding.
She was.
That's huge.
She was also cleaning floors.
Yes,
she learned
she
how the
was.
floor cleaner worked and how
Yes.
important. I mean, something as simple as pristine, clean floors. When you're bringing in I forget what you told me, $30 million robot to create the pieces, you have to have a clean floor. And who knew that a floor scrubber could be that important? And I mean, really, that the variety of life skills you can learn in any, it's just like you said, going, you know, for insurance downtown, even just getting down and taking a bus or whatever downtown. Those are important life skills that we can teach our students and give them that full, I mean, classroom is important, but those real life experiences as well.
Well, these partnerships are really important too, because the intellectual capital that the community can provide to these kids is so beneficial to them and to the community, and, you know, certainly to the businesses as well. But that's you know, that's the only way that community can work, and so we want to get these. We want to continue to grow this program as well to get the enrichment opportunities better, for lack of a better word.
We're lucky to have you. Thank you.
I think really,
Thank you.
as a kind of community member and as a board member, you know, one of the things which you're mentioning is that translating academics into practical life is so important, because real life, as soon as you step out of the high school, is different, you know, like, you know, paying the rent, you know, even utilities, or taking a bus, simple stuff of how I always tell at my work, you know, even to my medical students when they come, is that the person who is cleaning the bed is a very important part of our team. Don't assume that because you're a medical student or a physician, you are something this one. That is the important part of our team. So having that approach, you can only learn that when you are in that setting which you guys are providing. So thank you so much.
You know, there's skills, life skills to be learned, and like writing an email, making a phone call, and having a conversation. It's not texting all the time. You know, these are the things that, you know, we're going to push them to move into that space, because that's how it is. And I know we are committed as a consortium to work with Andy to develop this like 2.0 of what this looks like, and help deliver some information. I've got to say, I think we had 6. I've been with the 6 have helped the Conservancy alone. And the maturity I've seen happen over a year, you know, beginning of a year to the end of the year, these people have gone, you know, from a boy or a girl to a young man and a young woman. And the most remarkable two, well, Irene was always very mature for her age, but Sam Maines was so shy, wanted to do his Eagle Scout, and he ended up being a fantastic intern for the consortium. And I met with them monthly at the Conservancy, and this was during the pandemic. It was during those, it was very rough. He opened up, I counseled him how difficult, you know, this was very difficult on the students when their lives were completely disrupted. And do they have the emotional maturity to understand really what happened to them and their world and how it got turned upside down? So it was, I told his parents, Sam grew up. Sam grew up in this year. Sam grew up in doing his Eagle Scout project, in meeting with me, and at answering to me, you know, like it was kind of like, I'll do my Eagle Scout project for the Conservancy. And I said, well, what do you have in mind? Well, you know, he wouldn't even look at me. What do you want? And I go, well, no, you got to come up with an idea. And so this is what doesn't happen in the classroom. It happens when you're having career-based experiences. And we're a pretty kind and nice group of people. We want these students to do well in life, and we think we can give them a good platform for it.
And Dana has got just maybe to sum it all up, as a funny story about a gown.
Okay, so we tried to, like Dave said, we would like more members. So Sam was also our intern. So we did a project with Sam where we had a list of other businesses in the Franklin area. So we typed up a letter, talked about the consortium, and mailed them out. Well, Sam did that project. Then I had our next intern do it, this intern last year. Didn't know how to address an envelope. Which I found, I mean, I guess maybe they don't know this. I was kind of surprised, but it was interesting to me. And I said, and I was really like, what? And I said, your grandparents never sent you like a card for your birthday? Or, you know, I was just trying to kind of relate. And so my niece is 16, and I said, do you know how to address a letter? Well, she did, because my sister worked with her. So it's just something interesting that the little things that with all this technology, we don't know what they do and don't know. So something that we all know, I mean, I was shocked.
We thought it was funny.
Yeah, so anyways, he learned. That's one thing he went away with. I mean, it's not a huge life skill.
Oh, it kind of is.
Yeah, right. So
Go ahead.
I also want to thank you because, you know, in my work experience too, we always had interns, and it is more work on your part to work with them. You have to make a choice to do that. We do appreciate that you are
Well,
doing
thank
that.
you. Yeah, we have certain people like Dana that are good mentors, but that's a special kind of person that's willing to spend the time and so on. So
Figure out what they need. and-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
So-
individualized.
we're happy that you had the time to listen to us this evening, and if you have any other questions, that's great. But just wanted to make sure you knew we were here and maybe got to know what the consortium was about.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Does anybody have further comment or questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, as promised, defeasance discussion. Mr. Cromie, please.
Wonderful. So you'll see in board docs, I provided kind of an explanation of the current defeasance, so I'm not going to read this for you. I will give you just a little bit of how the defeasance works, or how you can calculate a defeasance, and then we can talk about it. So the state of Wisconsin gives you two pathways to determine a defeasance amount. The first way is you can levy up to the prior year's total tax levy. So all of those categories we saw before, private school vouchers, general education, community rec, and your referendum debt, give you that bottom line total. So if this year we happen to be under, we could levy up to that additional for the defeasance of debt. Or you can use your mill rate and levy up to the mill rate, and that kind of helps with the property or the property valuation fluctuation. And the state allows you to use whichever one will provide you the greatest levy as well. So whether that is max going up to the previous year's levy or using the mill rate, they'll allow you to do that. Ultimately, what is being presented tonight, really for discussion based on our July meeting, is a defeasance of $3.81 million. 48.5 cents of interest will be saved for every dollar we defease. Ultimately, this one shows about $1.85 million of savings from interest in that particular defeasance and keeps our mill rate at that $9.13 as we presented during the annual meeting. But I did also mention that the property estimates came out on Monday. So when we put the new property value into context, again, increasing by 12.7%, it really would allow us to move our defeasance up to $6.725 million, save $3.2 million of interest, and really chop off 14.7% of our total debt, principal and interest, and stay at that $9.13 mill rate, so that property value or property tax amount that we showed before, that $300 increase, all that would stay the same. That wouldn't change under this particular amount, just given the property value adjustments of 12.7%. So for the purposes of our meeting today, I'm really looking for, how do you want me to proceed? So I know we're not voting. I'm just looking, do we want to proceed and try to defease as much as we possibly can? Do we want to defease somewhere in the middle, or is it not something we're interested in all? I think it's pretty clear from our July meeting where I stand, but ultimately the 7 of you get to make that determination. So I'm just looking for some feedback. Ultimately how we can do this year, but then how do I attack it moving forward, given if this opportunity presents itself again?
Please.
I would kind of echo what Angie said. In my conversations in the community and things that I've heard since our July meeting kind of got the community talking about it a little bit, it seems to me from what I've heard and that most people would agree with paying down our debt now, as you've explained. So I think that's where I would be.
Yeah, I've already stated that's where I'm at, and it's, for me, it's the dual principles of our taxpayers of today are vastly our taxpayers of tomorrow. So borrowing from Peter to pay Paul doesn't make sense because Peter is Paul. So yes.
I have not spoken to people in the community regarding this, but it would be of my opinion that we should pay down the debt.
I think concur with the same stand, because we need to save the money and save the money for the future. You know, it's like if you have a house mortgage payment, you know, you pay it off, you save the money. Means it's all about, if we have the feasibility and the opportunity to pay off some of the debt, you know, it's always recommended, because less debt, less, you know, liabilities which we have.
Alan?
Oh, yeah. Pay it off, definitely do the defeasance. Is there an amount that's too much? So I guess I don't know the answer, but is 6.2 million.
725.
6.725, is it too much? Are we getting our money cheaply enough? Are we getting our money cheaply enough interest-wise, or have we gotten our money cheaply enough interest-wise where certainly the mill rate is going to stay the same, but instead of from 320 to 360,000, it's going from 320 to 400 some thousand. So that amount of money is actually going up a fair amount.
Well, that 320 to 360 represents about a 12.5%.
Well, that's the 12%.
Well, that's not, but it works out that way. It's about 1/8 or 12.5% of growth on that particular median home value. So that's a coincidence by chance. But it did happen to work out to be pretty close to that same ballpark.
I mean, in what I've heard in the community, in my view of it as well, is pay down the debt as much as you can.
Oh, why don't we?
Because we have things, we're a growing community and we have new schools on the horizon. And we are going to have to pay for those. And money isn't going to be as cheap interest-wise in the future.
I think that's a good point that you bring up, because it does add to the long-term financial stability of us. It's like your credit report, right, your credit score. The less debt you have, the higher your credit score tends to be. Same goes for us as well. So while we're rated AA2, if we could get to AA3, that'd be great. I don't know if it makes us there or not, so I don't want to necessarily throw that out there, but it certainly puts us in a better position to be there than it does to be AA2. And interest rate's a little bit different than kind of the mortgage. They can fluctuate. So they can fluctuate by year. Now, we set that all up at the time of borrowing, right? But our chance of setting up lower interest rates over the 20 years just increases as we increase that credit score.
So we're saying then, right now we're at 3.85, it's gonna be like 7% increase in the tax levy, bottom line.
I don't have the calculation
Well,
off the
I
top of my
just
head.
it will be up, it's gonna be like double, right?
I don't even know what slide you're looking at, so.
It's 20. 3.85
Like
bottom
the
line. Yep.
overall tax levy?
Yep.
Probably, it's another $2.8 million or $2.9 million.
So we're gonna raise the levy 7% to pay down debt. And our taxpayers are gonna think that's okay. We could pay down debt with fund balance and reduce levy and have the same thing. If paying down debt is the purpose, we don't have to increase levy to do it. We can use fund balance to do it, which we have already in the bank.
Are you saying you want to do that?
I would say yes.
So
Yes.
you would use fund balance to pay that?
I would caution us
And
on
not,
that because
and
fund
not
balance.
increase levy 7%. I think we're kidding ourselves that these tax bills are not gonna be $383, it's gonna be more than that. Because their house value is going up.
So the Zillow house value that I have on there is about 12.5% increase, which is Baird provided 12.7%. So we're in that same ballpark.
And that's acceptable to people? I mean, we don't have to go to max. And this board is the only body that, between the taxpayer and the district, that wants to go to the max. That's their job, that's what they want to do. But we're the only checkpoint here between what they want, the max, and the taxpayers. And why would we go why would you want to increase 7%? We don't have to.
Because
We're only going to save $180,000 in this year.
you're not convincing me, Linda. You're gonna have to try a different tack. We are who you have to be talking to.
Yeah,
to
I'm
try
talking to you,
convince
and
us.
I
So-
don't understand
so
why.
try again.
Okay. Why would you support a 7% increase in levy? 7% increase in levy this year. That's what you're doing. To pay down debt that's not, it's not a
one.
problem. Paying down debt is not a problem for us. We have a stable debt service. And we're not really saving it if you're really just carving out space to put more debt. The savings we're talking about, it sounds like the savings I get at Kohl's when they tell me, you're gonna pay this, but you saved $100. It's not showing up in my savings account. The $100 that they put on my, but they're calling it savings. This money, that interest is not showing up at anybody's bank account.
But does it put us in a better position in the future, knowing that we're going to need to take on more debt, or presuming we'll be needing to take on more debt? Again,
But when we do that-
presuming that we would need to be building another school, does that set us up better in the future?
Well, we are going to experience growth, as he alluded to, right? When that growth happens, that will pay for the additional debt, and the taxpayers will make that decision.
See, that's where I think I don't agree with your argument, because you speak as though the taxpayers of today are not the taxpayers of tomorrow. And in the vast majority of cases, people move here and stay here. So I think
I would challenge that assumption,
that,
because
that
I don't think it's an
people stay
assumption.
here? What, you think people are gonna pay their taxes here, then move and be gone when we have to think about building another elementary school in 7 years?
I don't think we have, well, we're paying these schools over 20 years. These are 20-year bonds, they're not 7-year bonds. These are 20-year bonds.
No, I'm talking about what is on the horizon for us to deal with in the future.
And the taxpayers will, here at that time, will vote on that.
And we would, if we need a new school, we would hope that that referendum would succeed. And I think it's more likely to succeed if the taxpayers can look back and say, oh, you were planning for this. You didn't just sort of make knee-jerk reactions from year to year. You had a long-term plan. And I guess that's the difference.
I guess, how do you see this as part of a plan? How is this raising levy 7% part of a plan for a new school?
And that's much more specific than it needs to be. But I think it's, to me, planning for the idea that we want what we're asking of our taxpayers to be relatively predictable and stable from year to year. And so with the state changing what they're giving us and not knowing what's going to happen in the next biennium, we want to keep what we're asking of our taxpayers to be as stable and predictable from year to year as possible. And so if we can sort of cushion up and use some of our flexibility to pay down our debt, so that if we have to flex up another fund in the future and take that back down and not pay as aggressively on our debt in the future, we can. I don't know, maybe I didn't explain that well, but to me, that is a guiding principle that I am not being convinced to abandon.
I think stable, predictable tax levy increase is important. We're proposing here an 8% increase. What was it last year? We've never had this kind of an increase in tax levy in Franklin for public schools. It's never been 8%. That's what it's going to be. How is that stable?
Andy, so taking into Linda's argument, of course, we want to be prepared, for the future plans and all that stuff. We don't want to have a fund balance in negative, God forbid, where we can all of a sudden, we are not prepared, because we have to have that cushion, Hypothetically, if what Linda is recommending to use the fund balance to pay off the debt, paying off the debt is always, I think all of us, there's a consensus that paying off the debt is good. It's a good thing to pay off the debt in all situations, whether school debt, college debt, How much of are we putting ourselves at too much of a risk, or we are going to still be able to weather the payment using the fund balance? I still be able to weather, because one of the things which I'm a strong proponent of is that having stability, because even the taxpayers, if we, yes, right now don't increase, but all of a sudden some elementary school is coming up and we tell them, hey, we need so much of them, they're not going to be happy with that, because people need planning, especially our retirees, our veterans. They have a limited amount of income. We cannot expect them to all of a sudden shell out, $2,000 for a school year for all of a sudden for the tax, because we are in need of a elementary school. So taking into consideration our veterans and retirees, who have limited income, we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to make sure that they're able to weather that, because people who are young and working and all that stuff, they can always, make some adjustments, but our older generation, who kind of, who have contributed to this community as much, so can you just kind of...
Yep, so I'll just start with the use of fund balance first. So as a reminder, our fund balance can be used across the board. So we could decide to use it for any fund that we wanted. Defeasance can only be used out of Fund 39, again, related to referendum debt. So when we pull from the all-purpose bucket, so to speak, we really water down the use of, or what we can do in the future. So kind of with that philosophy, so our fund balance is somewhere around $25 million. Probably anywhere from 16 to 18 million dollars of that is essentially cash flow throughout the year. So our fund balance probably really sits around $7 to $9 million of useful money. So it kind of, again, in thinking about that, we can't just say, well, we have $25 million to play with. That's not true. It's really kind of that 7 to 9. So now when we think about, if we were to take all 6.75, that really puts us at nothing. So I certainly would not advise that. But even taking a portion of it, I think is probably not very prudent of us. I think it's on us as administration to say, well, 25 million in aggregate of the total budget probably doesn't need to stay somewhere around 40%. So if we maintain it relatively flat over the next 5 to 10 years, that 25 million isn't 40% anymore. In 5 to 10 years, or if we go in 10 years, maybe it's down to like 35%, right? So it doesn't hold the same value. So I think it would be more prudent of the board to take that approach, where we work to keep our fund balance level as well. Because again, 40% is relatively high. I don't think we need to be there to be completely sustainable. But I also would caution us against spending it for something that isn't operational. So if we have 3 rooftop units go, that's going to be $500,000, $600,000, right? But if we spent that money on referendum debt, we can't pull it back. We can't levy it next year and say, well, we'll just levy that $600,000 and we'll call it even. It's gone. It's out the door. So I would caution us on that. I don't know if they're going to go. I have no idea, right? It could go tomorrow. Everything works on a bell curve. Ideally, it's going to last 25 years, but some are going to end early, some are going to end later. Hopefully they end later more often than not. But the bell curve holds pretty true. That's why somebody came up with it many, many moons ago, right? So I think long-term, I wouldn't advise that strategy. I would put it on us as administrators to hold that fund balance flat and work to maximize every dollar we have in operation and see what does it look like 5 years, 10 years from now. And then we'd reevaluate, at that point, do we need to maybe add to fund balance because it's been flat and our budget's raised enough given everything we're hearing from the city about a mass influx of people over the next 20 years. So I would just highly advise against it. But certainly, again, it's the school board's prerogative to choose that avenue should they choose it. I just think spending money that you can spend on anything isn't that. I'd rather spend on money that's targeted rather than kind of the general purpose pot.
I agree, I wouldn't use fund balance. When we wanted to buy the land from the Archdiocese, $4 million, we had it in a fund balance. We start spending it to pay down the debt. If something comes up again, that we need $4 million, we won't have it. We got to keep the fund balance. The question I'm wondering is, we talked about $3.81 million that we want to pay down. We want to do defeasance, but you said we could go as high as 6.7.
So that 3.81 is based off of a 4% property growth valuation. But the estimate that came back, again, just came back Monday, otherwise we would have updated in time for the board meeting, but came back Monday at 12.7%. So that additional property growth provides us that ability to increase that defeasance amount.
Would that ability be there in future budgetary years as well?
Well,
in other words, if we didn't
maybe
defease the
not.
max amount, so if property values went down, then it would shrink back.
Yeah, potentially. If property values were to flatten out potentially, or the state came in and provided us $300 under the revenue limit next year, but no additional state aid, right? That $300 is going to go directly against all of our students and come on as a pure tax levy. So is it possible? Yes, but I don't have the crystal ball either. To take. I wish I did. I tried to bring it over, but they stopped me at the border and kept it. So, but I don't have the crystal ball. So is it possible that some portion of that stays? Yes. Would 6.725 stay? I'd say that's a really very optimistic that would stay with the ability to do that next year. I know that DPI is putting out their state budget request for the biennium sometime in mid-September. My guess is it's going to be fairly aggressive. What the governor does with that and ultimately the state legislator, I don't know. I don't again, I can't foresee what they were gonna do with it, but my guess is that there's gonna be a component tied to the revenue limit, so we're already gonna see our general education fund go up next year. Should we again max to the levy of general education fund, which would ultimately already carve into any ability to do something with that as well.
I sincerely hope that we're able to levy a larger amount for our general education fund in the future, because that's really where things are going to start to get tight really soon. I don't know why I'm saying that.
Because it's the truth.
Yes.
It's true.
Well, if we raise it 8% this year, that all becomes available to transfer up to the general fund. We're building in like $8 million of flexibility by, if you go this max, you're building $8 million of flexibility.
Do you think that's a bad thing?
I think that's too much. Too much. I think
How much do you think? How much do you think is a reasonable amount, Linda?
I think we should keep the levy.
You
for
need to say
debt
a number.
the same as it was this year. And we can still, I mean, the $1 million that we over levied last year has not been used to pay down debt. That's
you
in
address
fund
that?
balance.
Yeah, so I don't believe it is. I believe it's sitting in Fund 39. So my intention would be, if we went to 6.7, I would tack on as much as it would be to entirely eliminate the one borrowing that was originally borrowed a few years ago of $8.08 million, and just wipe that one out. I think we could probably get pretty close, if not eliminate that one entire borrowing and be down to 2.
Yeah, what I would do if I were in your shoes, but someone's got to be thinking about, you know, the tax bills coming out.
Okay.
Somebody should. We're the only board, we're this between the taxpayer, it's us sitting around this table, because he is going to go to the max. You've heard him say that.
I think we've all stated our positions. Is there any purpose for further discussion?
I don't think there is.
This is not up for,
We're
this
not
is
voting.
not an action item
No.
tonight,
No,
right?
but
So-
we,
So I can provide next steps for how that will work. So,
But is everybody on the same page that we're gonna do the 6.7 versus the 3.8?
it's a lot of money.
I know, but I haven't heard anybody say anything like, yeah, we ought to be doing the 6.7. I think we should do the 6.7. I don't know where everybody else is.
So the 6.7, what the 6.7 would do is give us, is allow us the possibility to wipe out one of the three.
The borrowings, yeah.
One of the 3 borrowings.
I have a question. Why is that so important? In this budget, to wipe that out, why is that the most important thing we can do in this budget in 2022?
Nobody said it's the most important thing.
I don't think wiping it out is, I was just using it as a reference point of
No.
what we would
But
could
that's
do
what
with
we
the
want
dollars.
to do.
Does anybody else have any thoughts to Alan's question? Does 6.7 seem too high to anyone?
Well, I think we need to see what the numbers look like after. I mean,
Yeah, after you get those-
we're talking about, the budget that we addressed tonight was 3.81 million. I think we need to see the numbers for 6.7 million, but I think the consensus is that.
We'd like to see it.
That we'd like to see it.
That's my question, is what's the, if we're not,
does it mean in
it's not
terms
an action item tonight, like,
Yes.
at what point does it become an action item, and what information will we have then that we don't have now?
Yeah, so I'll address both those. So first of all, outside of the debt levy, the property tax piece that we saw tonight is gonna be pretty close. Our general education funds probably aren't gonna transition that much, maybe a couple $100,000 possibly. But they usually have a pretty good July 1/8 estimate coming from the state. So everything else is probably pretty set in stone, minus the referendum piece. The mill rate, again, based on the 12.7, we can get that to 9.13. Everything that was presented tonight. Ultimately, how the defeasance will work, so kind of thinking about the timeline, is I would come back at one of the September meetings, probably the second one, and we would pass what's called a not to exceed resolution. So essentially, you could set the not to exceed, and I'm gonna blow this way out of the water. You could say, we're not to exceed $20 million in defeasance. It doesn't change what I can do from the max from the state level.
Right.
Like, I would still be able to only do 6.725 or, whatever dollar amount gets me that. You could set it as high as you want. But if you set it at 1 million, we couldn't defease any more than 1 million. So essentially, we set what's called a not to exceed. So I would try to get as close as I could, which should probably be around the 6.725. Then when our numbers are finally all finished, so we get our state aid, which verifies our property tax authority under the general education fund, we go back to the calculation and say, is it 6.725? Is it something more? Doesn't matter, the board approves 6.725. Is it something less? Then we have to back it down to something less. The not to exceed language is what provides you kind of that cap. The state requirements of staying within your previous levy or your previous mill rate then sets your new maximum, but it couldn't exceed anything that the board had already approved. And so that would be official. Then we would actually levy. So you'd approve a levy in October.
Okay.
And then around February 1st, we would start all of the official paperwork to go out and sell the bonds. So I don't do that. Our financial advisor does that. And then essentially they pay it to an escrow agent. We wipe it off our books. It is totally gone. Escrow agent takes care of it from then on. It's like we never have to worry about it again. It is officially off of our books.
So are there any questions that we would want to make sure that Mr. Cromie addresses or data that he has for us at the September meeting?
I think it would be important, because what I hear from Linda is a very specific need to be clear with our taxpayers, the impact to the taxpayer. So I think any information you can give us as specific as possible to, if we decide this is the impact to taxpayers. If we decide that, this, kind of give us a little bit of that. Because and correct me if I'm wrong, Linda, but what I hear from Linda is a strong concern about how this plays to the taxpayers. And so really having a good understanding with that would be helpful for me. Please.
Yep. Exactly.
And Linda, if you have any of these prepared statements, it would be helpful to receive them ahead of time, because it sometimes can be hard to digest everything when we're receiving it in the moment. So I would encourage you, if you have taken the time to prepare something and thought about your arguments, please share it with us so that we can actually attempt to internalize them prior to getting to the meeting. That might be an effective way to make your position.
Now, I think also in the current state of the inflation, where people are definitely counting each and every penny they want to save, So I think as a school district and as a board member, I definitely like to make sure that the citizens, because we want a financially stable school district, but at the same time, we have a duty to our citizens who have, with this current inflation and all that stuff, which is going on at the economy, everything's so expensive. How can we make sure that both the sides are, stabilized, and we don't hurt our citizens, because at the end of the road, they are our community members, and everybody is right now counting pennies.
Right now, we have this opportunity to pay this much because the value of the houses went up the way it did. With interest rates going up, when you were selling a house before, you put it on the market for $200,000, and people were bidding $200,000, $210,000, $220,000. Now, when you put on a house for $200,000, I think people are actually having to drop their prices a little. I think what we're seeing is an opportunity here, and next year, I think the housing market is going to be down. Interest rates are not helping the housing market. So this is an opportunity also for us to take advantage of doing a greater defeasance, which we won't have next year, I think. Doesn't make it right, but that's what I believe is happening.
So where I think I heard everybody land is I'll evaluate where I think we can go. I'll bring that as a resolution, a not to exceed resolution, but I'll have some data that goes along with some potential steps along the way, so we can see what that potential tax impact would be.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think.
Yes, and also the tax impact 5 years from now, which is what we're also looking at, or 3 years from now.
So you have to get the crystal ball out of customs.
Yeah, right. I don't know if I can do that particular one.
Well, we're doing this.
Create scenarios.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
it's
doing
not
this so that
impossible.
we don't have to we're doing this so that we can save 50 cents on the dollar, so we need to show what that, show what that actually is, right? I mean, that's.
So I think, that's very important because I think, as board members, even as citizens, right? As a citizen, if someone is telling me that, okay, now your tax bill is going to be extra, so $100 more, then I think we owe this to the citizens that, okay, we were doing this with this scenario, although, it's just like, a car payment, am I right? You have a car loan, if you pay up right now, you might save so much of money down the road, So I think it's very, very important for us to have a presentation where paying off this, although, it might be a little bit tight right now, but it saves so much. If you don't pay right now, it might be easy right now, but it will hurt long term. So I think different scenarios have to be laid out. What are the benefits of paying it off? What are the disadvantages of not paying it off? I think in clear.
The point I'm just getting at to Mr. Sprague's, like, what does 3 years look like? I have to estimate what would 3 potential years of state aid look like, revenue limited tax. And I can't even tell you what I would think for next year because we just got 2 years of zero. So I don't even know where I would go with it from a third-year standpoint. So I think that part would be hard. I can certainly talk to the debt part, but.
Maybe just talk to the debt part.
Yeah, I think talk to the debt part.
Holistic tax impact
Yes,
would be.
yes. Yes.
Just trying to shoot
That's kind of
fish
why
out of
we're
water.
doing this, though. That's part of why we're doing this, is because we are balancing this debt with the operating to preserve some levy base.
I'm bringing a defeasance so that we can eliminate some of our debt for the long-term thought processes that you've mentioned in regards to potential buildings down the road or whatever have you. I know I talked to Mr. Sprague probably a week and a half ago, and while I don't know exactly what it will look like, I am quite certain I would be willing to bet my house on that the buildings we have today will not be the buildings we have 20 years from now. Something will be different, right? So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's elementary, high school, probably not the middle school, so I probably wouldn't bet that one. But something will be different. Something is going to need to be done in general, based on growth or just based on longevity of the buildings or based on needs of the community as well.
We saw that data. That is accurate. All right.
Agreed. Okay, thank you, everyone. Item C, community,
Through this quick.
Community Communication and Engagement Committee update. Dr. Beer, please.
So we had a final, hopefully, we had a good meeting with the communications subcommittee. We reviewed the progress we've made to date, talked about things that worked well and the changes we made this past year and what we would like to see going forward, both in light of our personal experiences, feedback from the community, and the results of the community engagement survey that were shared to us in our board packet. What we came up with and what we hope that the board can propose moving forward with are continuing our pre-meeting chats on a quarterly basis rather than every meeting, simply because they tended to be mostly sparsely attended, save for a few during a key time period. So we would like to do that and then balance out those times in the off times when we're not doing the pre-meeting chats. We'd like to initiate or revive what used to be the key communicator conversations. This is taken from what they were called back when they existed when Linda's kids were in high school, so like 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah, something decades ago.
And the goal of this will be to bring together people in the community who have contact with a larger constituency in some way, be it city government, community advocacy groups, parents who might be involved in booster clubs, et cetera, and where we can share in small group settings and then larger group readouts what's going on in the district, what's going on from them, and then finally end up with basically a single sheet summary of what we heard at this meeting that they can take back and share with their constituencies, and then prior to the meetings, ask them for what their constituents are wanting to hear about. So having these be regular, predictable conversations that can hopefully benefit the groups in both directions. Let's see, we added an email the board one-click button to the website. Chad already completed that. And then we want to make an effort to be visibly present at key district-wide events. So like scholarship night would be an example, something where it's a district-wide event that we could advertise. Yes, some board members will be there beforehand. We might revive the board apparel ordering site as well, so that we would identify ourselves as being board members. So having opportunities for more casual conversations in those ways. Feedback, is everybody on board with this? Can we move forward?
Yeah, I think we can move, I hope we can move forward. I think one of the things we talked about at the meeting was,
I know it was fast,
yeah,
sorry, Debbie.
well, no, I think, but I think that captured a lot of it, and it's all written down here, so I think that's good. I think one of the things we discussed was that, you know, there was really only our meetings for about a 2-year period were the only spots that we could really be, because there was, the other things weren't available because of COVID. Now that we can get out and things are happening again, we can be present at these at district events and communicate with the community and start these key communicator conversations so that we can move the district forward. And I hope we can do that.
We started to brainstorm who would be some groups that would want to ask to like send a representative or identify someone who might be of interest. So I'll share that spreadsheet with people, and if any, you know, share your thoughts. And so the dates are on the summary, and we hope that the board feels inspired to attend these.
Well, I think we have made some good strides so far in being a little bit more visible and communicating, and you know, you've got your one-click button now, so anybody who wants to email us can just click one button and get all of us at once instead of copying and pasting, and we're going to be at events and things. I mean, I think everything we're doing is trying to enhance that communication with our greater community, so.
The least popular item on the community engagement survey, I believe, was address the board in meetings. So for those of you who do it, you are the brave few, but most people don't feel comfortable, I think, doing that, or it's not a good time or whatever.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll
Anybody have further
move it
comment?
forward. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. The treasurer's report is available in Board Docs Library. School board liaison reports. We have board liaison report.
I will say that SWSB, they had a new director, and she resigned, and
Oh, no, that was quick.
it's quick, but we have somebody else that stepped in. It was,
Oh my
yes.
gosh, that was 1 month up, 1 month down.
Yep. Met her, it was all good.
Wow.
Family issues, I guess,
All right.
something family. But they do replace her with, she was a former school board member, I think, at Menominee Falls.
Faith Vanderhorst from Menominee
Yeah.
Falls.
Oh,
I think it's be good, I think she's interim, though, she's not.
Yeah, she's the interim. She was on the executive committee for several years, and just like a fill-in until they figure it out again.
So, it's been a surprise, but I think we're good.
I had a liaison meeting with Jenna at Forest Park. It was my liaison school this year, so we had our kind of initial meeting, getting set up with her, which was, you know, exciting, new role for her and new school for me. Liaison-wise, I've had kids there, but just talked about how she's, you know, kind of reshaping things at Forest Park with, you know, going into a new year, new staff, staff development, staff engagement, really how those things will play into student achievement. And it was great, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing her plan and the kind of the overall school improvement team plan for the year. I think there's a lot of great things happening at Forest Park. My other liaison assignment on the Franklin Education Foundation is clearly very busy right now. You alluded to the Milkman game this Sunday, so will be a super fun event. And the best part about that game, I mean, I'm sure the hot dogs will be great, but celebrating our education, our teacher awards, educator awards, I think that's just going to be really great, having that recognition for them and having all the other schools there, you know, all the individual schools and things like that. So,
Will that information be on their website maybe later to see who won?
it's been posted.
No, it's on social media, that's why you're not seeing it.
Oh,
Maybe we should give Vicki some feedback that she should put a link on the website for people who don't.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it might be on the website, but I know it's been shared on all of like the district social medias and things like that, but I'm sorry, I will connect with Vicki tonight
Yeah,
and
tell
we'll
her
get
to
you the
fix my
information,
phone.
Linda. Sorry, those are my liaison reports.
Thank you. Anyone else? I met with Janine Bombian at Robinwood. Perhaps that was before our July meeting, I don't remember. But she's getting started and is really looking forward to the job. She was also at the new teacher meeting with all the other principals at Forest Park on Monday, which Linda and I were at. And
Lots of new people.
lots of new people, lots of new faces. It's really fun to get started again with the school year, though. There's a lot of energy, and we're going to be able to be more visible this year. I'd encourage people to get out with their liaison schools, meet those principals. Obviously, we have new principals. I attended the CISA meeting last night. Also, the new executive director. It was her first meeting because we don't have a July meeting. I think the meeting was different in the way it was before, just in terms of her personality over the previous person. I will send the agenda out to everyone. Let's see, I went to the Business Consortium
I'm busy.
this morning, and I've been to a couple of those meetings. And Andy Thompson is getting together that group, and Dr. Moe and I will be attending those meetings as well. So I think that's all I have to report. Anyone else? Or does anybody have any school and community engagement reports?
I think some of us were at the Franklin Night Out.
Oh, yes, thank
It
you.
was fun.
I did sneak up to see the band perform.
Oh,
Not
you
the
got to
official
see
one,
it.
I just went up in the booth, but I wanted to know how they know how to march and stuff.
Did you learn?
Something in her notebook about steps and things.
Used to be actual pieces of paper that they had to carry, and each one was like a different formation. Now it's very cool. It's on an app.
What?
So they can, on their phones, they can watch their little dot
Linda would
move
not
and
like
tell
that.
them, it tells them, go 5 steps to the right or 3 steps to the
Oh,
front
that's
or
interesting.
whatever.
It's pretty neat. They like pull them out and look at it. Laura was with, we were watching it, and they'd say recalibrate or something, I think
Yeah,
was the word.
that was their phrase.
And they'd look,
recalibrate.
and then you'd see them like scoot, move.
Wow. Because you're always looking to be, by the, anyway, yeah.
Just how they
We could talk for hours about it.
Oh, okay.
This meeting has gone a little late.
Yeah,
You can
it's
go
gone
on
We don't have to. All right,
From,
anyone else?
Every Wednesday night, you can go watch the band. They practice from 6 to 9 every Wednesday night, and the last 15 minutes or so will be a full run through like you saw. So if you
there
want to
you go.
watch the progression, but I was just going to mention that you mentioned earlier about just the physical presence on the campuses. You've been driving around town at all, particularly at the high school. Kids are back. And so watching like the band, but also football and cross country and tennis had a huge victory up in Green Bay the last, I think it was 2 days of overnight. They stayed overnight and they won a major tournament up there. I forget the name of it, but they were undefeated against like 8 different teams or something. Golf. I mean, it's exciting to see the students out. And then also just one more community thing was, and it's not Franklin specific, but it was hosted at the Sabre Center, was the Frozen junior production by the Forte Theater. And that I love going to things when there are people who aren't from Franklin, because the buzz, wow, this is just such a beautiful facility. And oh my goodness, it's a real pride. And Forte and the kids did a great job. So fun to be out in the different, again, like you said, we can go out and do things, and it's very fun.
Thank you. Future agenda items. Summer school report and seclusion and restraint report. Countrydale will be the first school to present this year. Athletics and activities report and district administrator draft goals. Those will all be in September on the 2 different dates. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:45. Thank you, everyone.
Oops.